Hello and welcome to the podcast Hues of Ace. I hope everyone's well. This is a new podcast, of course, the first episode. Very excited. So who am I? My name is Isabel, and I am starting this podcast because I've seen some other podcasts about asexuality around, but not as many as I'd like. Need some more representation. I am Ace, and I just want to talk about, today at least, exactly what is asexuality, and let's start from there. What exactly is asexuality? Well, if you look it up, you get the simple definition of someone who experiences little to no sexual attraction. But it comes in so many different varieties and different ways to express those kinds of feelings, and there are many misconceptions about what it might mean. So it's not celibacy, because that is a choice that you, or not you, but in general, people make, of course. But asexuality, just like being bi, for example, or gay, or lesbian, or pansexual, etc. So that's some of the things that people might not understand when they first hear about it. Also, it's very interesting because when people think of the word asexual, or they just read the definition off Google or something of the like, they think that asexual people don't have sex. And that can be. I mean, there are people who are repulsed by the idea, or they just wouldn't do that themselves, but are fine with other people doing that. But that's not true. I mean, some asexual people do have sex, and for them that's fine, and that's, of course, no judgment. But it's just to do with the attraction. It's not anything about the action. Misconception about asexuality is that asexual people don't want relationships, and while sometimes that may be true, and again, no judgment at all, sometimes that's not the case, because you can have romantic attraction as well. And romantic attraction is separate from sexual attraction. So you might feel both romantically attracted to someone and sexually attracted to someone. Or you may feel one and not the other. And the romantic version, if you like, of asexuality is called aromanticism or aromantic. And aromantic means that someone doesn't experience romantic attraction, or only experiences it a little bit. All things, it's not black and white, so it means that everything is a spectrum. That means that some aromantic people can experience sexual attraction, and some asexual people can experience romantic attraction. And that also brings us to the aromantic spectrum and the asexual spectrum, or together, A-spec. Now, I'm talking primarily about asexuality only because I am ace myself and I don't have experience with aromanticism, and of course I don't feel that way, so I don't feel as if I can talk for aromantic people. But you never know. Maybe I'll get a guest on who is aromantic, and then they can talk more about that. Of course, you can be aromantic and asexual, which means you don't experience romantic or sexual attraction to anyone. A bit more about the aspec or the asexual spectrum. So, of course, there's asexual, which some people use as an umbrella term for everything, or there are other labels that people might feel more comfortable using. So I'm not going to go through the entire A-spec in one episode, because that would take far too long. But I'm going to talk Asexual or demisexuality. And what that is that a demisexual person normally wouldn't feel any sexual attraction to anyone, just like an asexual person wouldn't. But with demisexual, what happens is once an emotional bond has been formed, then sometimes they do experience sexual attraction to that one person. And again, like I said, you can have romantic attraction as well, even if you are asexual or demisexual or graysexual, which we will get into in a second. So that could be that someone is asexual or demisexual and panromantic, for example, or bisexual or gay, lesbian, etc. So, of course, this is very difficult because some people say, oh, demisexuality is not a real thing because that's just what everyone feels when someone gets to know someone, the attraction, there's more attraction there. And I understand where they're coming from, but it's wrong. Because when you look at a person, as far as I know, because I'm ace and I don't experience that attraction, so correct me if I'm wrong, but when you look at someone, say a celebrity or someone you've met on a train, a stranger, and you think, okay, I'd like to have sex with that person. That's still wild to me, but correct me if I'm wrong. With demisexual, of course, that doesn't happen because the sexual attraction isn't instant like that. There's no sort of first attraction sexually. Not to say that asexual people or demisexual people or other people in the ace spec don't find people attractive. We do. It's just not sexual. It's called aesthetic attraction. So if you think about someone who's really beautiful or pretty, attractive, whichever adjective you'd like to describe them as, it's like someone described it to me as sunset attraction, which I really love because imagine you're looking at a sunset and you think, oh, that's really beautiful, I love that. It's like artwork. And that's basically how I feel when I look at someone. So I look at someone who's attractive to me and I think, wow, they're really beautiful. But that doesn't lead me directly to sexual attraction or sexual thoughts or anything like that. So it's a misconception as well that asexual people don't find people attractive. Well, that's not true either. And I've touched on this before, that asexual people can experience romantic attraction. Now, for me, I'm panromantic asexual, so that means that I can be romantically attracted to anyone of any gender, but just not sexually. So, as I said, you can be lesbian, you can be gay, omnisexual, polyromantic, whichever you feel. I said I'd talk about graysexual, so now seems like a better time than any to go into that. So, what graysexual is that you only feel sexual attraction in very rare circumstances, or it sort of varies. So, it's sort of halfway. Some people say it's halfway between allosexual, which means you do experience sexual attraction, and some people say it's halfway to asexual. And some people they don't like to think about it that way because, again, the half and half doesn't really work for them. But as a definition, I think it works. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I'm just trying to do this podcast to spread awareness, and I don't want to spread the wrong thing, naturally. So yes, this would be what graysexual is. Again, all of these things like demisexual, graysexual, asexual. There is a romantic version as well. So demi-romantic people only experience romantic attraction when a deep emotional bond has been formed. But again, that can also be that they're sexually attracted to someone and they can be bisexual. omnisexual, straight, gay, etc. Now, I've mentioned straight, and some people call themselves straight aces, and some people don't like the concept of straight aces because that implies heterosexual and heteroromantic. But if you are asexual and also heteroromantic, you do belong in the LGBTQ plus community because you are asexual. You don't have to be gay, lesbian, trans, etc. to be accepted into the community and recognised as it. Of course, this also goes for heterosexual, aromantic people as well. And as we discussed before, they do belong in the LGBTQ plus community. So, what does the A stand for in LGBTQIA? And there's been this long debate about it, but what it stands for is not allies, because allies support the community. They are not part of that community, they only support it. A stands for asexual and asexual spectrum, aromantic and the aromantic spectrum, and also agender. This has been a formative first episode of this podcast, Hues of Ace, and I really encourage you to share this podcast for people who maybe don't know what asexuality is. There'll be more episodes, of course. I'm planning to post these maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, depending on how it goes. And thank you so much for listening. It's been really interesting to talk about it. And again, if you have any questions, please just let me know in the comments. I will try to answer everyone. Of course, if there's any hate, I will block and report, but that goes without saying. And for any asexuals out there listening, just know that of course you're valid and everything, there's nothing wrong with you. There's this misconception that some asexual people think themselves, which is internalized, and it's very sad that we're broken, which I thought for a while as well. I'll get into that in another episode. But that of course is not the case. And asexual people can call themselves queer if they wish. They are queer. If you don't like that label, then ignore that. If you do, then that's fine as well. And thank you so much for listening. My Tumblr, if you're interested, is Hues of Purple, which I'll put in the description box below. And yeah, just thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And of course, there are so many hues or shades to asexuality and the spectrum, and it's just a beautiful community that's so far been very accepting, and hopefully it stays that way with much more representation and things like that. So thank you so much. Bye.